And good evening, everybody, and welcome to the latest edition of the 8 o'clock spot live here on the Gryd Network's YouTube channel and Twitter account. I am your host / judge / moderator, Bryson Carver. We've got an absolutely loaded 8 o'clock spot and show on tap for you guys tonight. Let's start, though, with our guest making his very first appearance 17 episodes in on the 8 o'clock spot is the host here on the Gryd Network of Clutch Sports Talk. It is Mr. Ryan Flowers. Ryan, man, how you doing, man? Welcome to the 8 o'clock spot.
Hey, man, I'm glad to be here. Technically, I did the pilot, but this is the first official one. So I'm here.
Matter of fact, it was actually you three. I think it was actually you three when we did the pilot like a couple weeks before we aired our first episode. That's a great point, Ryan. Next, Mike Guido, just a couple of spots behind our leader, who we'll get to in just a moment, making his reappearance on the show. But Mike, you feeling confident today?
I feel very confident today. I mean, listen, what am I, only 50 points behind Mr. Barry Grant Jr. on the leaderboard for
about to look at the leaderboard
overall spot? That will change today, Bryson Carver, in a positive way. By the way, just to throw this out there, and I know that we got to get started, but like I told you pre-show, Bryson, the winter meetings right now for Major League Baseball are off to a slow start. I am fiending for information on Twitter. So throughout the show today, I'm going to be scrolling Twitter, see if we get any crazy updates during the show today.
Look, we'll see. I mean, we were just talking pre-show, Mike, Barry, and I about potential free agent signings. The Yankees apparently going to sign for everybody, trade for everybody. I wasn't aware. This is news to me.
Yeah, baby.
Every offseason, it's tales all the time. And finally, our points leader and a man who has not been the 8 o'clock spot in quite some time, but is making his reappearance. It is the host of the All Even podcast. It is Barry Grant Jr. And Barry, how you feeling?
You know, Bryson, I haven't been here in quite some time. And I've been giving a lot of people time to catch up. And it's a shame that nobody has passed me. And I haven't been here in like 6 months. And I'm still the man. So I'm back to be able to extend my lead and extend it to the point where nobody can touch me. I'll probably be here for the next 10 weeks to really put it out of reach.
This could get
also, I'd like to add.
Put that in writing.
I'd like to add. I am out for whoever put the black Santa Claus in all the CVS's and the Walmarts. I some rollouts happening. I don't know what the hell is going on here, but I'd like to get to the bottom of this, and I'm not going to rest until I find out what the hell happened.
And Barry went more in depth on this stuff on his show recently on the All Even podcast. So definitely check his show out here on the Gryd Network. All right, before we get into our rules, let's look at our leaderboard real quick. As you mentioned, Mike only 50 points behind, but there's Barry Grant Jr. there, right there in first place. Again, Guido literally 50 points behind and an 8 o'clock spot points. That is tiny, tiny, tiny. Followed by Alfred Parsar Jr., John, back-to-back champion John, I might add. Devin Nettles, Dalton Brown, Adam Vesey, Dylan Lima, Alex Johnson, and followed by Eric Van Letten here at the Gryd Network. And of course, by night's end, Ryan Flowers will be on this list. So let's look at our first round rules. It's as simple as this, ladies and gentlemen. A great take gives you 200 points. A good take gives you 100 points. An okay take gives you 50. And a bad take, you come home empty-handed. You get 0 points. Let's get to our first topic. It revolves around the college football playoff, where the Alabama Crimson Tide got in as the number 4 seed in the playoff. They were preceded by Michigan, Washington, and Texas. Getting in the playoff, Alabama looking to win yet another national title. They will match up with Michigan. But a lot of folks out there are really outraged because of the fact that Florida State, the Florida State Seminoles out of the ACC, unlike Alabama, went undefeated in a Power 5 conference and yet missed the college football playoff in large part due to the injury to starting quarterback Jordan Travis. There's been a lot of debate on my show, on y'all's shows, I'm sure, and across the board on other shows around the country about whether or not the playoff committee got this right. So I'll start with you, Ryan. Did the college football playoff committee get this right? Did Alabama deserve to get in over Florida State?
Absolutely. I mean, I didn't even bat an eye. I mean, I get it. You know, Florida State, they won their conference. It's the ACC. I don't know what their strength of schedule was, like 50, 55th, I don't know, 60. It's something crazy like that. And I've heard a lot of people talk about, oh, Florida State, you know, those guys, they practiced, they played hard. That's life, man. Who cares? Like, I wish I was 6'5" and a millionaire. It didn't happen, right? But I'm still pretty successful in what I'm doing. So they got to learn from that experience. So, I mean, listen, at the end of the day, college football is a business. I don't care what people say. I know it's nostalgia and people, oh my God, it's about the athlete. Look, the college football playoff is about money. And the 4 teams that are in there, Michigan, Texas, just those 2 teams alone, the revenue from their fan bases that's going to generate. Come on, man. You can't outmatch that. And I get it, Florida State, undefeated, but a lot of it too is if their quarterback was healthy, I would say, yeah, they probably deserve to be in there, right? But if you're struggling with Louisville to get first downs in the first half, what's going to happen when you're on your 3rd string quarterback and you're playing Michigan or Alabama, whoever, right? Really, the question is, it's not even about Florida State. Georgia really is the ones that got shafted the most out of all of this because they go the whole year number 1. They're the 2-time defending champs, undefeated, and you finish what, 5th or 6th or something like that? Like that's outrageous to me. And I think more so people are more up in arms about Florida State. Like, who cares about Florida State? Like, I really don't care about Florida State at this point. So yes, absolutely, they got it right. These are the 4 best teams in the country, with the exception of Georgia being left out. But I think for the most part, they got it right.
Yeah, and that's something you bring up Georgia. It's a very interesting point. People talk about it being unprecedented to leave a Power 5 champion out. It's also unprecedented for a team to go you mentioned it, all through the season, number 1, and then the last week of the season, they dropped 5 spots after losing by a field goal to a great Alabama team. So you make some fair points across the board. And Ryan Flowers, I will give you, sir, a great take on your first ever segment on the 8 o'clock spot. So congratulations, sir. Great take across the board. And that's something you mentioned, the thing about Louisville, and that's a point that I heard Heather Dinich made on ESPN today, was the fact that when you're struggling to get back-to-back first downs on drives, the playoff committee takes that into account. And obviously you mentioned the injury to Jordan Travis. I'll move to Mike Guido. Mike, I know you're a big college football fan. We were on the Gryd Network's Instagram talking about this. Did the playoff committee get this right, having Alabama in over Florida State?
So I listen, and you and I have talked about this at length, Bryce, and I think there's multiple ways that you could look at this. The first way is listen, I told you, as a fan, I like the fact that they left Florida State out because you and I were both in agreement. Whoever they would have gotten matched up with in the playoff, whether it would have been Michigan or Washington, they would have been a multi-double-digit underdog in that game. They're not among the top teams in the country without Jordan Travis. However, I kind of fall in line with the thinking of where I don't know that you could penalize Florida State for something that was completely out of their control, right? I mean, listen, I don't know that any other reason is valid for anybody trying to explain why Florida State didn't get into the playoff other than the fact that Jordan Travis got hurt. If Jordan Travis doesn't get hurt, they beat Louisville by 30 in the ACC championship game or something like that. They are without a doubt a shoo-in in the playoff. So listen, this is kind of the way that I thought about this. I think that Georgia not being in the playoff made sense just because they lost to Alabama. I don't think they were going to leave the SEC champion out of the playoff. I also think that the decision that the committee made as far as putting Texas in, Texas got in as soon as Alabama won the game. So that's kind of where I fall in this. So listen, as a college football fan, I like the fact that Florida State didn't get in, but no, I'm not certain that it really made sense to me. Plus, keep this in mind too. Logically speaking, if they thought that low of Florida State, and I know that it's not a playoff ranking, but why would they have Georgia behind Florida State in the overall ranking? That to me didn't make sense. So no, I kind of disagree with Ryan in a little bit, in some sense where, listen, Florida State, I think, should have gotten in as an undefeated ACC champ.
Well, you make some fair points. And the thing about the backup quarterback situation, I used this example on my show, carving it up yesterday, is the fact that, people talk about, you get screwed over because of something that was out of your control, but it is in your control how you play after that. I mean, Ohio State had Cardale Jones, their 3rd stringer, in and beat Wisconsin 59-0, got in as the 4th seed, and obviously went on to win the national championship. Obviously, Ezekiel Elliott had a lot to do with that himself, and that great Buckeyes defense led by Bosa, but still, in the same breath, how you win does matter. And I think that's always something we've known as a general rule in college football. But I think great take across the board, Mike Guido. I'll give you the full 200 points. A great take here. So you're tied here with Ryan Flowers. So we'll shift now to Barry Grant Jr. Barry, did the College Football Playoff Committee get it right by putting Florida State in behind Alabama?
I'm not even going to talk about if they got it right. I mean, here's the thing about this selection committee, whether it be college basketball or this playoff in college football, somebody's going to be upset. And this is just Florida State's turn to be upset. Somebody next year is going to be upset if they think that they're getting in. There's always an Alabama tax to pay. So if you lose to Bama, you end up, dropping 1,000 spots. If you beat Bama, you end up raising 1,000 spots. It doesn't matter what year it is. It just seems to always happen. I agree with Ryan in regards to the whole Georgia thing. They lose one game to Bama, and now they're out. Like, it doesn't matter how they weren't as impressive as the last 2 seasons that they were a dominant team, but they're still number one. They're still number one for a reason. And for you to be able to get kicked out of number one that quickly in the SEC championship and get booted out of the playoffs, that to me is the biggest farce more than Florida State is. So somebody's going to be upset. Somebody's going to be mad. It's always like that. It's always going to be a talk and a conversation every year about somebody getting in or not. It is what it is. That's just the nature of the beast. So my biggest thing is the Alabama tax. I don't like it.
That's interesting too. Here's the only issue though, Barry. You didn't really answer the question. So I'm gonna have to give you. I'm gonna have to give you 50.
That's all right.
50.
That's fine. But
it puts me in the point lead for the time being, doesn't it, Bryson?
It actually does. Yes, Mike Guido currently. But listen, don't celebrate yet. The show is not over. We don't do the leaderboards until the show is over. So Mike Guido, I guess, technically currently he's in first place. But Barry Gryd Jr., okay take. I do agree with you, though, in the sense that, yes, somebody's going to be ticked off. In this case, it is Florida State.
So I did answer the question.
What?
I did answer the question. I
No,
said somebody's going to get pissed off. It doesn't matter.
Well, it's got to matter. It's got to kind of matter who gets in.
It don't matter. Somebody's going to be pissed off. It is what it is. Eat crow and move on.
Fang McFrost says Barry gets a big 0. He's in the comments. He wants to get a goose egg there. Shout out to him. Anybody who wants to make their thoughts known in the comment section, absolutely feel free, and we will get to your comments. Moving on to the second round. Let's look at our second round rules. Same as the first round. Everything just gets double. The stakes are raised times 2. Great take gives you 400 points. A good take gives you 200 points. An okay take gives you 100. And a bad take, you once again come home empty-handed with 0 points. So let's move on to the city of brotherly love, where there wasn't a whole lot of love between the San Francisco 49ers and the Philadelphia Eagles. San Francisco, following their loss in the NFC Championship game, go into Philadelphia and win 42-19. They end up scoring not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4, not 5, but 6 straight touchdowns on 6 straight possessions. Absolutely dominated the Eagles from start to finish. And the Niners, I think we would generally agree, maybe not across the board, I don't want to speak for everybody here, but are probably today the best team in the NFC. It feels like Dallas and Philly are kind of chasing those or that team. But I'll ask you first. I'll start with you, Mike. Did the Philadelphia Eagles in this loss, because we know they played a lot of close games lately, did they get a little bit exposed?
No, I don't think that they got exposed. I think this game had less to do. It said less about where the Eagles are and more about where the 49ers are. Listen, I think San Francisco right now, to me, they're the best team in football. They just are. Okay. They're blowing out really they're not blowing out Seattle, right? They're blowing out Dallas. They're blowing out the Eagles. They're blowing out the 3rd, 4th, 5th best teams in the league. And listen, everybody kind of lost faith in them when they lost 3 straight. But listen, I said it from the beginning. When they lost Trent Williams and they lost Deebo Samuel, it threw out a dynamic in their offense that just couldn't be replicated, right? All this pre-snap motion that they were doing with Deebo Samuel, the blindside protection that Trent Williams was giving you was lost. Brock Purdy became a quarterback that all of a sudden needed to play consistently under pressure. So I think right now this is a brilliantly coached football team. As far as personnel is concerned, their offensive personnel is phenomenal. I know that people are kind of bogging on them a little bit because they lost Talanoa Hufanga. But listen, on the defensive side of the football, when you add Chase Young and you add him to Nick Bosa, and you've got linebackers like Fred Warner and Dre Greenlaw, this is just an incredible roster. That they're playing better football than anybody in the league right now. They're blowing out their stiffest competition. To me, San Francisco is, the biggest thing. So no, I don't think that the Eagles got exposed. I think they know how to win ugly. This was just one of these games where San Francisco's playing really, really hot right now.
And here's a crazy stat about the 49ers. You mentioned that this is what they do to great teams. If you include their games against Dallas, Philadelphia, and let's include the Jacksonville Jaguars with a healthy Trevor Lawrence, themselves coming off of a bye, you combine those final scores, it's 49ers 118, the other three opponents 32. So they absolutely obliterate the stiffest competition in the NFL. Like you mentioned, I do agree. It's it's definitely the best roster in the league. If Brock Purdy is your weak link, you're a pretty good football team. It's fair to say. We'll get to Brock Purdy in our final segment. Mike Guido, I'm going to give you a great take there. I'm going to give you the full 600 points. I do think there were some aspects, though, of Philly that were exposed to a certain degree, but you could certainly make the case, and I would agree with you that a lot of it had more to do with Philadelphia. I'm sorry, with San Francisco's dominance than Philadelphia's ineptitude. Now to you, Barry Grant Jr. And by the way, full disclosure for all of you out there watching or listening, we got Cowboys fans across the board here amongst our contestants. So I am in no way implying that there's a little bit of bias, but maybe just a little bit, but we're not going to penalize it because I want real and honest takes. To Barry Grant Jr., did the Eagles get exposed in this 42-19 drubbing against the Niners?
Absolutely, they got exposed. Of course it is. They've been flying by the seat of their pants for weeks. They were in dogfights with the Commanders, dogfights with all these garbage teams in the league. If it wasn't for Dak Prescott's big ass foot, they'd have lost to Dallas too. So this is the problem: is that what we saw in that 49ers game was complete domination by the 49ers, but it was bound to happen to the Eagles because they've been playing like this for weeks. They've been playing like shit for weeks. Also, I'm going to have to disagree with Mike. Although I do agree with him in regards to certain aspects of the 49ers that are the best roster and they're the best, playing like the best team right now, they actually played two of the most perfect football games against two of the best teams in the NFC. They played great against the Cowboys. They played a great game against the Eagles, right? But all the other games, they've looked pretty decent, but they played their best games against those two teams. Are they as good as they played against those guys, or are they kind of just more average towards what they've been playing the entire season? I think it's more where they've been the whole season, regards to those two microcosm games. So I don't really believe that those two situations are they're like an outlier or whatever it is, or that's the norm. That's not the norm for them. They played their perfect games against those two teams, and shouts to them. But it was the Eagles. They had this coming. They've been flying by the seat of their pants. That tush-push garbage, get it out of here. Ban it. When they can't be able to do that particular offense, they look mid. That offense looked mid, and they're going to continue to look mid as the season goes on.
I've always been in the mindset, and this is easy for me to say as a 5'7" podcaster from Tennessee, but yeah, I've always been in the mindset that if you don't like it, stop it. But it looks like Goodell, you're probably going to get your wish. Goodell's probably going to ban it when it's all said and done.
Ban it.
You and all those who hate the brotherly shove or tush push or whatever, they're probably going to get your wish. I will say, though, in defense of the 49ers, you mentioned they play their best against the best competition. Well, that's what you're going to be seeing in the playoffs. Right. So they are going to be battle tested once January rolls around. All that said, though, I don't totally agree with you, but I did think it was a great take by Barry Grant Jr. So I'll give him the full 400 points there. Great take by Barry. Finally, with you, Ryan, did the Eagles in this loss to San Francisco get a little bit exposed?
I think they did to a certain extent. I feel the way the 49ers play their style of football, it's a bully ball. Like, they're coming in, they're kicking your teeth in, and they're leaving you with your guts on the side of the road. And I know I got really graphic there, but they got outplayed, man. Like, literally, 49ers did not care. And I think we thought that, at least I thought, Philadelphia was a little bit more physical, but come to find out, they really weren't that physical. Between Carter and Davis in the middle, they were getting bullied by Trent Williams and the rest of that offensive line. I think in another aspect too, the Eagles are not hitting offensively on all cylinders. Like, we've seen that throughout the course of the year. And I think it showed a little bit, especially this past weekend when you're playing another top tier team. And the Niners just, listen, I've kind of succumbed to this all year, I guess, in professional football. They're the best team this week for sure, because for all we know, they can come out next week and stink it up, right? But like, to Barry's point, they've dominated some of the best teams in the National Football League, and they still got some more work to do. They still got Baltimore at the end of this month. Like you said, they destroyed the Cowboys. They destroyed the Eagles. They destroyed Trevor Lawrence earlier this season in Duval County. But back to the Eagles, I think they did get a little bit exposed. I kind of knew it a little bit because the way they've been living life on the edge, it, like Barry said, it was bound to happen. Now, are they a bad football team? No, but they're not the same football team they were last year. And I think a lot of people still see the Eagles as this like juggernaut on offense and even a juggernaut on defense, but they've been exposed in several forms of fashion throughout this year. Like Sam Howell is throwing over 300-400 yards on them, right? Obviously, so again, to come back, they're not a bad team. Are they as good as we thought they were? They're probably not. And I think they've come down a lot, but listen, they lost their coordinators, both of them, right? Offensive, defensive coordinators. So something has to come from that as well, right? And then you got the security guy, but that's a whole nother issue in itself. He got exposed for, I don't even know how he has a job. I thought he was there to deliver pizzas for whatever reason. So, but he wasn't, obviously.
15 seconds, Ryan.
Yeah, you're good. But other than that, I think they did get exposed.
Yeah, they did, and I'll go ahead and put up your point total because I've given you a great take here, Ryan. So back-to-back great takes to start your 8 o'clock spot career. Congratulations. But part of the reason I gave you a great take is you brought up a point that I was waiting for somebody to bring up is the fact that yes, the Eagles have been kind of flying by the seat of their pants to a certain degree, but and you hit on the offense has been up and down, but by and large, especially the second half of their games, their offense has been clicking. Jalen Hurts' second half numbers are off the charts. Their defense and their secondary in particular have been abysmal from start to finish. I mean, I remember I'm not a big overreact to week one type of guy. It's an 18-week season, long, a lot of things can happen. But I remember sounding the alarm bells when Mac Jones, no offense, Barry, when Mac Jones threw for 300 yards and 3 touchdowns, it was just going up and down the field in this team. I'm like, what's going to happen when they face the real quarterbacks, the actual starting quarterbacks? And it hasn't gotten better. And they've tried to address it. They added Kevin Bynard, and it just really hasn't materialized. So that's something that doesn't look like it's going to get fixed anytime soon. Let's look at the comments here. Fang McFrost says, if the Eagles defense plays like this against Dallas, Dak is going to have a field day. Well, I anticipate that's very likely, Fang. And then Tyler Helton says, yo, what's up, Tyler? Everybody, of course, who wants to make their thoughts and opinions known in the comments, be sure to do so. Third round rules. This is the last round with all three the panelists and contestants. Let's look at our third round rules. Everything gets doubled from the second round. Great take gives you 800 points. A good take gives you 400. An okay take gives you 200. And a bad take, again, still 0. You come home empty-handed. Let's move to historic Lambeau Field where the Kansas City Chiefs lost another game where their offense was pedestrian at best. The Kansas City Chiefs lost to the Packers 27-19. Patrick Mahomes struggled, barely threw for over 200 yards, threw a brutal fourth quarter interception. Again, a lot of Kansas City fans were mad about the officiating. I think a lot of the Chiefs players handled it very well after the game in the sense that, hey, if you got to rely on a call there at the end to help you win, you probably didn't play well enough to win in certain forms and aspects, but that was a really bad missed call on Valdez-Scantling.
Terrible.
Point is, I'll shift to Barry. Start with Barry here. Vegas has the Kansas City Chiefs as still the co-favorite to win the AFC along with Miami. Should they be?
No. You want more?
I do want more. Yes, if you want points, I'm going to have to give you more than that, buddy.
No, I'm just kidding. Listen, no, they shouldn't be. Because the thing is, has anybody seen Baltimore play? I mean, Baltimore has been one of the best teams in the AFC all season.
Mm-hmm.
Like the problem with Kansas City, listen, you're going to be able you're going to trust them in regards to their history, right? This is why they're getting the respect that they're getting. But let's be honest, the defense has played better than the offense all season. This is not what we know Kansas City to be, right? But this is a story about hubris. The Kansas City Chiefs have hubris. They believe that the Kansas City way is to be able to, we don't need to re-sign this guy. We can trade this guy. We can bring in some bum off the street from CVS that's holding the black Santa Claus. We can be able to have anybody play, and Patrick Mahomes is going to save us. Patrick Mahomes is going to be able to make a star. Newsflash, you need talent around talent to be good. They don't have any talent on the offensive side of football. Travis Kelce is starting to show his age. You can start to see it. Pacheco is good, but they need more. Those skill positions, those wide receivers are not good. And they need to start drafting well. People need to start looking at Kansas City's offensive drafting and starting to really question what's going on there. Are they looking at good talent? Because they're not panning out good players in regards to offense in the last few seasons. So for them to be still considered the favorite, no, they shouldn't be, because they're a good team. But I can't trust them in the playoffs because you're going to need big playmakers in the playoffs. They don't have enough playmakers to make big plays in the playoffs. They don't.
Yeah, and I mentioned this on my show yesterday. I think you bring up a great point about the receivers aspect that the Chiefs may very well have made, and it looks like they probably did make the same mistake that a lot of defending champions do, where they automatically assume that, yes, you can still be good a year from now with virtually the same talent, but not factoring in the fact that other teams are going to be going after you and getting better themselves. It's the same mistake the 2020 Bucks made by bringing all their starters back, didn't even make the NFC title game. Heck, my Warriors did it in 2022. So it's a mistake that a lot of defending champions tend to make, and the Kansas City Chiefs might have gotten a little bit complacent. And so I think you bring up some good points. So Barry Grant Jr., great take. I listen. I can't refute anything you just said there. So great take there for Barry. Now to Ryan Flowers. Should the Kansas City Chiefs still be, again, this is according to DraftKings, should they still be the favorites to win the AFC today?
Absolutely not. I think Patrick Mahomes, he's starting to slow down as well too. He doesn't have the talent, like Barry mentioned. Tyreek Hill is doing wonderful things down in Miami, and you can see how Tua has been playing since Tyreek has been there. Fun fact: I mean, the Dolphins are ranked second per PFF in offensive efficiency, about I think like 90% or something like that, where the Chiefs are about 76%. Even also, not to mention on the defensive side of things, although the Chiefs defense is younger, it's been better in years past. The Miami Dolphins defense is still ranked historically better than the Chiefs defense. And I believe they're coming in at like third or fourth per PFF. So then you got Kelsey. He's busy, going to be the next song topic for Taylor Swift at some point. His head's not in the game. He's thinking about retirement. Once players start thinking about retirement, they're pretty much done. And I'm not saying that they're not a bad team, because you still got Patrick Mahomes, you still got Andy Reid. But at the end of the day, they don't have enough in the tank to win. And what they did last year, if you really think about it now, is pretty remarkable, winning that Super Bowl without a number one type of wide receiver. And they got it done in the trenches. And if you look at their stats now, they're running the ball a lot more than they ever have under the Patrick Mahomes, Andy Reid regime. So no, I think Miami should be with the Baltimore Ravens not co-champs, but co-tied for the AFC.
Yeah, he makes some good points, and yeah, Pacheco has been more of a focal point of the offense. And listen, I think that kid Rashee Rice is going to be a nice player in this league. I really do. I think he's got the capabilities to do that. But right now, he's a number 2. He's not number 3. He's not a bum. He's put his numbers are pretty solid this season. He had a 100-yard receiving game last week against Vegas. But if you're counting him to be your consistent number 1 guy, that could be a little bit of a problem. So some good points there by Ryan. Ryan Flowers, I'm going to give you 3 straight great takes. So that means you're automatically advancing to the final round. So congratulations, your first show. You are going to get there. So it's going to be decided here. So I'm looking at the point total. So Ryan, there you are at 1,400 points. Barry at 1,250. So not that far behind. So it really comes down to Mike Guido. So let's see what he's able to put together here. Mike, should the Kansas City Chiefs be co-favorites with Miami to win the AFC today?
No, I don't think they should. I agree with both of these guys. And listen, what you're seeing now, I think, with the Chiefs, and I think Ryan might agree with this as well, is that the Chiefs have kind of turned into more of a defensive football team this year, rather than what we're used to seeing, where it's very Patrick Mahomes, speed over the top, possession, Travis Kelce, that kind of stuff. And now listen, Andy Reid is a brilliant play caller. Patrick Mahomes, we don't need to talk about how great he is. We obviously all know that. But here's the reality of the situation. I think Ryan brought this up and I think it's really valuable. You're seeing a lot more of Isaiah Pacheco in this offense now, but yet they're only middle of the pack running the football. They're about 16th in the league in rushing offense. So, but this is a team right now that ranks 4th in total defense. This is now a defensive football team. So, but Barry brought this up too. This is the first year in a while where we've seen the Chiefs just have guys, and I've said this before, they just have guys that cannot separate. These are guys that cannot create space for themselves in the open field. They're not very fast on the perimeter. This is kind of a slower football team. I mean, listen, I said it to you before too, Bryson, on previous shows. They really need Rashee Rice and Sky Moore to develop quickly, just because those are really the only guys that have any upside or ability to separate in that offense, any potential to do so. So I also agree with Barry. I'm giving a lot of credit here. Maybe I shouldn't be doing that, but I do think right now that Baltimore is the favorite. I really do. Listen, I think what Baltimore is doing as far as where Lamar Jackson is, as far as his efficiency numbers are concerned, he's still completing about 70% of his throws. This is a team that is very focused on controlling the clock and playing defense. They're the number 1 rushing offense in the league. So Right now, I think it's Baltimore, and Kansas City has some issues that they really, really need to fix before the playoffs get underway.
And what's funny too is the fact that, and I when I went and looked at the odds, I was surprised. And this isn't a shot at Miami, but I was surprised that Baltimore wasn't tied with Kansas City if they were going to be tied with anybody. Especially to consider now the AFC looks wide open for kind of those three teams because now Trevor unfortunately went down last night. We'll see how long he misses. Burrow's gone. Aaron Rodgers got hurt in Game 1, so there's been a lot of quarterback. Deshaun, well, of course, I don't know if the Deshaun one is as big as those certainly, but he's a better option than Joe Flacco. I think we'd all agree with that. But yeah, listen, It looks to be much more wide open in the AFC than we initially thought, at least compressed between those three teams. Before I give the grand reveal and see who's advancing to the final round to play or to take on Ryan Flowers, we got some comments here by Tyler. Let's see. Tyler says, as a Kansas City fan, look at our defense and our offense needs to step up. He says, trade MVS, Marquez Valdez-Scantling. Yeah, he's that drop.
What, for a gym bag?
Yeah, I don't know what you're going to get for him. He's a product of Aaron Rodgers and a little bit of Patrick Mahomes. There's no offense to the guy, but yeah, he says Kansas City Chiefs have had a lot of major injuries. Cowboys Cam fan is in the comments. Right now, 4 of the 7 AFC playoff teams have backup quarterbacks. That's mind-boggling. I'm like, Houston's not in right now. That's what's crazy. I mean, Indianapolis, you see what they're doing. So wide open AFC should be a crazy mad dash to the finish. So the two guys advance to the final round. Obviously, you see Ryan right there. Congratulations, Ryan. Mike Guido's heading to the final round. I'm sorry, Barry Grett Jr. Mike is advancing, but Barry comes up short here in the round here. But your reaction, Barry, coming in to pinch hit for us.
I don't have a reaction. I think that, these two guys brought the heat. However, the fact that Mike Guido panned to me for several points in this last take, I should have got at least an extra 300 points. I'm just saying, yeah, because he's giving me credit. That's we pretty much shared a take, so we all should be going to the finals. But that's fine. Shouts to BoJack Horseman. I hope he gets healthy with Jacksonville. He's looked very mid all season.
Hey, he's played well the last 3 games.
Yeah, whatever. You go ahead and have your finals. I'll enjoy playing in the background. Go ahead.
Yeah, we'll see. Good job, Barry. Good performance by him. All right, final round, and it is well, before I even get to the topic, let's just look at our final round rules. It is a winner take all. This is a great equalizer of the 8 o'clock spot tournament, which of course will go into the NBA Finals next year. But the winner gets 10,000 points. Again, this is a big deal for whoever can get this, can really rise up the standings rather quickly. And the loser comes home empty-handed with, of course, 0 points. The MVP discussion's heated up. It seems like, at least right now, again, we got 5 weeks left to play in the season, but it's kind of down to 2 guys. Brock Purdy of the San Francisco 49ers, who's having a fantastic season, leading the NFL in completion percentage and in passer rating. Meanwhile, you have Dak Prescott, who's having a fantastic season himself. He's the highest-graded quarterback this year by Pro Football Focus and is leading the Cowboys to, once again, another fantastic offensive statistical year. So I will start. Again, these are 2 Cowboys fans. And again, former Cowboy fan here, so being a full transparency and obviously a massive Dak fan. I don't care if y'all say Brock Purdy. I just need y'all to give a good solid case. But let's see what y'all think. So I'll start with Ryan. Who should be the MVP today if we had to vote between those 2? Is it Dak Prescott or is it Brock Purdy?
I mean, no bias. I'm going to turn the hat around real quick just to let everybody know, no bias here. But it's got to be Dak Prescott. I mean, here's the thing, right? And I talked about it on my show on Sunday. I feel like Dak has less to work with at the end of the day. I know that may sound crazy. CeeDee Lamb is his best target. Jake Ferguson, okay, he's mid. We have no running game, okay? Dak he's had to make bigger time throws than Brock Purdy has. And I know we looked at this last week's game and he was phenomenal, threw like 4 or 5 touchdowns for Purdy, and that's great. But he has a great running game behind him. And if you have that, any quarterback is going to look good in the National Football League. And you can see now that the Dallas Cowboys, I believe they ranked, I think, like 10th or 12th. I know they're like 79% as far as rushing efficiency in the National Football League. Guess who's number 2? San Francisco 49ers at 91.6% behind Christian McCaffrey. Okay. So you can't be the MVP of the league if you're not the MVP on your own damn team. And I think besides Trent Williams, Christian McCaffrey, then maybe you can say Brock Purdy at that point. Not to say that Brock Purdy isn't a good or primetime player, but I think we fall into this trap in society that we're ready to anoint someone as elite. And Brock Purdy isn't elite. Is Dak Prescott elite? No, but they can have 1 or 2 good seasons that may show some type of eliteness. But I think at the end of the day, when the dust settles, Dak Prescott right now, it should be at the top of my leaderboard. And then even maybe Tyreek Hill, but I know he's not on the discussion for today because the man is about to catch 2,000 yards. That's never been done in the National Football League. But Dak Prescott.
Yeah, if you had to go beyond non-quarterbacks, Tyreek Hill, and I think Tyreek Hill does have a legitimate case. Again, first could be the first. It's very likely, knock on wood, he stays healthy, the first 2,000-yard receiver in the history of the league. So you make some great points across the board, and that's one thing too about Dak is he has one guy in his offense that's in the discussion. If you want to exclude offensive line, Zach Martin's still a very productive player, but as far as skill position guys, CeeDee Lamb's the only guy in that Cowboys offense that's in the discussion to be the best player at his position in the league. George Kittle's in the discussion as the best tight end in the league. Maybe he's past Travis Kelce at this point. Christian McCaffrey's probably the best running back in the league. Deebo Samuel, I think, is the best overall offensive skill position player running the football and catching passes in the league as well. So that's you make Williams across the board.
Probably the best left tackle.
What's that? And a Hall of Fame left tackle, Trent Williams. I heard him again. I mentioned this on the show. I've heard him compared. He's like the Shaq of left tackles. He's literally unstoppable. You don't get pressure around the left side in San Francisco. Brock Purdy is safe as long as Trent Williams is there. Shifting now to Mike Guido. Who is the MVP today? If you had to vote, is it Dak or is it Mr. Sturdy Purdy?
Couldn't have said it better myself, Ryan Flowers. I'm going to say it's Dak Prescott, too. Listen, here's the reality of the situation is that weeks ago, and this is probably a month and a half or so ago, maybe even 2 months ago, when we were having this exact same discussion about the MVP of the league, who was the guy that you were going to pick early on. Listen, before Dak Prescott went on his tear, people were talking about, maybe this is one of those years where a quarterback doesn't have to win MVP. Right? There's not a guy that's really standing out above everybody else until Dak Prescott went on an absolute 6-week tear like he has been over the past month and a half. So that's part of it, right? People like Tyreek Hill and Myles Garrett were being thrown into the conversation as non-quarterback MVPs. Listen, and we kind of talked about this before. We kind of saw what it was like for Brock Purdy when things kind of broke down, right? During that 3-game losing streak, without Trent Williams, without Deebo Samuel, this is where I think Ryan is right on the money, is that when those guys weren't there, Brock Purdy played poorly. And it's not that he played less than what he's capable of. He played legitimately poorly. So I agree with Ryan in the sense of he's not even the most valuable guy in his own offense. He's not even the most valuable, general in his own offense as far as Kyle Shanahan and him are concerned. Listen, we've seen Dak Prescott with this exact lineup, with this exact offensive personnel throughout the entire year. He's improved as the season has gone on. He really is proving he's shutting all the doubters up. He's the captain of this offense, and this offense wouldn't be the same right now without him. So I'm 100% in with Ryan right now as well. I think it's Dak Prescott easily over Brock.
Obviously, I agree with both of you, and it is just music to my ears as a long-time Dak supporter since the days of Mississippi State.
You know me. I am a big-time Dak Prescott skeptic, and listen, me and Barry Grant Jr., who I know is still in here, we both have had plenty of doubts about Dak Prescott. He's shutting us both up right now. The way that he's playing right now, he looks like he's a top 3 quarterback in the league right now.
No, he's playing unbelievable. Am I still, last thing, and then I'll obviously get to the point, Tolo. Am I crazy now to say Dak's better than Josh Allen?
I still think you're kind of crazy about that. Yeah.
Okay.
Josh Allen's really special.
I agree. I just think that Dak's more special, but we can later.
Listen, I love Josh Allen. I love Josh Allen, and Dak is playing better football than Josh right now. But I think if you were to tell me tomorrow I can start my franchise with one or the other, I'm picking Josh Allen.
Yeah, is that a Dak bobblehead, Ryan?
Yeah, no. Dak is talking to me right now. Hold on. What's that? You said you're better than Josh Allen? Yeah, he wanted to. Yeah, wow. He said, yeah, he wants to tell you guys. He wants to tell you guys. Yeah, here we go.
It's the greatest cadence since Omaha. I don't care what anybody says. It's fantastic.
Hey, man, I'm around the house all day saying it. I'm driving my family nuts. I'm pumping gas. I'm at the gas station. I'm at the grocery store. I'm under center. I'm like, yeah, here we go all day.
Love it. Love it. Well, As we dial up the victory music, again, both of you made fantastic cases, and it's very fitting that you two are the finalists, given the fact that you gave great takes across the board. But the winner for this week's edition of the 8 o'clock spot, it is Ryan Flowers. Congratulations, Ryan, the winner of this week's edition of the 8 o'clock spot.
Oh, Dave, I like that. That's very regal.
Yes.
I like that.
We give the champions respect here, Ryan. This is what we do. Ryan, how do you feel being for your first
Hey, you know what, man?
I
feel great, man. Honestly, the panel that we had tonight, man, I respect the hell out of Mike and Barry. So when I saw they were coming on, I was like, you know what, man, this is gonna be good. This is like the A team. No offense to the rest of the guys, but like these are the guys, man. And so I'm glad,
man. This is it.
I'm glad that I was here tonight. I hope to make a return soon, but you know my schedule dictates me a lot of the times. But I definitely wanted to make an appearance at some point here on the 8 o'clock spot. And I'm glad I'm not going to even do a full circle or a lap because again, I have tremendous respect for all the guys here tonight. And it was a pleasure. It was an honor. And I hope to do it again soon.
Again, that's the great thing about that final round. The 10,000 points, man, you can get right back in the race in the blink of an eye.
Yep.
If you can come here through and get some W's. But great points across the board for you, Mike, and even before that, Barry, you did a great job. So your thoughts, Barry? Did I make the right decision here? I want your confirmation.
Of course, you made the right decision. As long as Mike doesn't win, I'm all right.
That's the kind of hate that makes him great. It really is. It is. It's the kind of trolling.
Hater of the year.
Him great.
However, go ahead.
I believe you're looking at the new overall picture. I won a totally different tonight, so I'm good.
Mike, just remember that I know where you live, so if you don't end up being on the show next week for some reason, I'll take your spot, sir. Don't worry about that.
Oh, okay.
I do want to end the show on this note, and I love you guys. I think this was a great show. All the shows are always great.
Yeah.
But I want to end on a serious note about Major League Baseball. Major League Baseball, you should be ashamed of yourself. No, seriously, because you have the biggest star and the biggest player in this modern generation, and it's silent. There's no press coverage. There's no pomp and circumstance. This is why baseball falls by the wayside in regards to popularity and publicity, because they do dumb shit like this. You're supposed to be bigging up your biggest player of your sports probably history. This is why baseball falls flat, and it's a disgrace, and they need to do better, but they can't do better because they're always stuck in their ways, and they really don't know how to get out of the mud. So that's it for me.
Well, listen, I've talked to you. I agree with you, and we talk often about not to get too far into left field. We're talking about baseball. It's funny to go into left field, but not to go too far in the weeds here. But a commissioner, a great commissioner, can go a long way. People get on Goodell and Adam Silver. Those two are darn good commissioners for their sports. Even I've talked about Kathy Engelbert in the WNBA. The popularity of that league has gone up. Major League Baseball, not great. So, but yeah, great points across the board. Great show, everybody. And that is it for this week's edition of the 8 o'clock spot. Check us out next week at 8 p.m. Eastern, 5 p.m. Pacific time, live on the Gryd Network's YouTube channel and Twitter account. Shout out to Ryan, our champion, as well as Mike Guido and Barry Grant Jr. And of course, bobblehead Dak, little Dak.
I want to end the show giving my man Devin a shout out. Big trust.
Big
trust, baby.
Get out of here. All right, we'll see y'all next week.